Now, Times Now, whether or not the rest of the media does, Times Now is going to relentlessly follow the case of Chamel Singh till we get an answer from Pakistan. In fact, it's surprising that the rest of the Indian media, large part of it, has not picked up the story so far. General B.S. Jaswal, former Army Commander, Northern Command, representing the Indian side on this debate tonight. K.C. Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs. Columnist and social activist Firoz Bakht Ahmad has had an unfortunate experience himself in Lahore, when he was actually witness to children between the ages of 3 and 16 being detained for a short while on the suspicion of spying for India. I can't think of something more ridiculous. He wants to speak out on this tonight. Syed Tariq Pirzada wants to speak out on this. He's a strategic affairs analyst. And Brigadier Javed Hussain, former Pakistan Army Special Forces officer. I'd like to first go across to our guest in Islamabad. Gentlemen, you see, unless you have something to hide, you as in the government of Pakistan in this case, then the autopsy report must be made public. We want the autopsy report of how Chamel Singh died. Don't you think that's a very legitimate demand now that we are putting forth? Mr. Pirzada, would you like to take that? Sir. Or Brigadier Hussain, either of you. Give us the autopsy report. How did Chamel Singh die?
First of all, if someone has died in a Pakistani jail, be it an Indian or be it a Pakistani fellow, his autopsy report must be made public. It is absolutely a legitimate demand. I don't see anything wrong with it. It is in tune with the tenets of fairness, and that is a point that has to be considered by the concerned authorities, and the report must be published.
But why is it not being made public?
May I just finish the point? Secondly, I have heard these comments being made by different fellows whose clips have just appeared, that as though Pakistan as a state was involved in it. Pakistan has done that. Pakistan has done that. Remember, we are talking about very early stages of investigation.
So early stages?
And the government of Pakistan,
he died 2 months back.
The way it is confronted with the kind of
he
problems,
died 2.5 months back, Mr. Pirzada. How do you call it an early stage of the investigation?
At the present time.
Now, how is it an early stage of the investigation? He died 2.5 months back. Brigadier Javed Hussain, would you like to take that? 2.5 months back, this man dies. He's in a Pakistani morgue for 2 months. The autopsy report has not been put out here. When his body is returned, his internal organs have been removed. How is this an early stage of the investigation, and why is Pakistan hiding so much?
Before I do that, Arnab, is General Jaswal there?
Yes, he is there, sir.
Yeah, very much. How are you, Javed?
How are you, sir?
How are you, Javed?
How are you, sir?
Very fine. Good evening.
Very well, sir. Thank you very much.
Very kind of you.
It's always nice to be with you.
Welcome.
This question, Arnab, your question is very legitimate, and I have also read the same reports that you have read. I have no reasons to believe that what I have read is untrue. A tragedy has occurred, but certainly not caused by Pakistan. When you accuse Pakistan, then you are accusing the Pakistan government.
Yeah.
It was neither by the Pakistani state nor by the Pakistani government. Who did this? Obviously, this thing happened in the Lakhpat jail in Lahore.
Yeah.
This has to be investigated. The first thing which should be done by the Punjab government is to set up an inquiry commission, appoint a prosecutor, go into the details of this tragedy, fix responsibility, and hold them accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. So
because
why
this is something? This is something which no Muslim will condone. Our religion prohibits this sort of a behavior.
Yeah.
And This is something which needs to, and I'm sure it will.
So,
it has appeared in Pakistani newspapers.
No, but it's not. You see, if it had been, one second, Brigadier, I first of all reciprocate your sentiments. But I would like to tell you, there is no inquiry, there is no prosecutor, there are no details, there is no responsibility put. I want to now get in KC Singh because this judicial probe is such a sham. It has hit a dead end because of the non-availability of the autopsy report. You say the government of Pakistan did not kill him, but the government of Pakistan is hiding the facts. KC Singh. It's not killed him, but it's hiding something into this matter. I wonder why. KC, how do you view this?
Arnab, before you go to KC Singh, I would very strongly recommend that this be taken up at the government of India level with the government of Pakistan. And I'm sure that what needs to be done will be done to identify the culprits, hold them accountable and punish them.
Yeah, but General Brigadier, you will be happy to know that as in many cases after the telecast of this story on Times Now, the government of India has picked it up. Actually, I wish it did not need the telecast on Times Now for the government to pick it up. But KC, you know, what is Pakistan got to explain in this case in your view?
Firstly, let me agree with the commentators from the Pakistan side. We are not saying Pakistan has done it. But there is contemporaneous report by a prisoner who has returned to India, who was in the same jail, who said he was beaten up by the jailers, some people of the staff of the jail, because he was washing clothes in a public place. And the sad thing is that he almost completed his sentence. It was towards the end of his sentence.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, why has it taken 2 months? You see, this is precisely why individual incidents like this then start affecting relations between India and Pakistan, because whichever side has done it does not unilaterally promptly take action. And I'm also surprised the Indian High Commission in Islamabad and the Ministry of External Affairs
have done nothing.
Has known this. This has been in the public domain for 2 months. So why did we wait for so long after the autopsy was done? The repatriation of the body should have been sooner, and we should have made a demand much, much earlier when this thing happened, so that we should get to the root of it. Why was, somebody flogged so badly in a jail? And I'm glad people on the other side, and I'm sure right-thinking people in Pakistan also would agree. But I can hazard a guess, Arnab, because the beheading of the soldiers at the LOC took place in the first week of January. And I think Pakistan government kept sitting on this. They didn't want one more case to add to the LOC incident, because this happens a week later. This happens on the 15th of January. Now, that's very callous that you keep sitting on this case because you're trying to contain the damage from the previous one. And then come the Hyderabad
but why were we quiet?
And so you keep waiting.
But why were we quiet?
Exactly,
I understand why the Pakistanis were quiet, but General Jaswal, why were we quiet?
Well, I don't think that there was any reason for us to be quiet, because the Indian Embassy in Pakistan would have definitely known. But before I say that, I would like to appreciate the journalists, Rana Tanveer, my friend Brigadier Javed and Mr. Pirzada, for being very transparent in this thing, because it's not ordered by the Pakistan government to prosecute that kind of an act. It has been done by some maverick at the lower level, but the question comes up, once the inquiry or the investigation has been done, why hasn't the Pakistan government taken expeditious action? What Mr. KC Singh is saying is absolutely right.
There was an I have an explanation for that. Arnab, if you allow me to answer that part.
I will take the General.
Finish.
General, he says, Syed Tariq Pirzada says he has an explanation as to why Pakistan did nothing. Would you like him to come in now? Would you like to complete your point before I go back to him, sir?
Well, I regard him. Please, most welcome.
Okay, General Jaswal, I'll come back to you. That's kind of you. Syed Tariq Pirzada, what's your explanation?
I didn't say that the government of Pakistan has been sitting on that or has been stonewalling. What I'm trying to say is this, that you have to remember one reality. Pakistan is going through a major political transition for the last 2 months. Pakistan has been has been in a process of going from a democracy to another term of democracy. May I just finish? Every single institution in Pakistan is faced with multiple problems.
So what?
While this
so what? Do you go ahead and randomly kill an Indian prisoner because you are going through a difficult phase? Is that why you are not handing the report so that the judicial process in the matter can begin? You have a problem. We have said before you are a troubled state.
Hold on.
We have said you are a troubled state.
What I'm trying to say is this.
But that does not mean that a troubled state does not allow a judicial inquiry to begin in the matter.
We can't get to the end a resolution of the matter.
No, you have not given. Your government has not given the autopsy report. You want a judicial process to begin.
Well,
you have to give the autopsy report.
Now that there is a news, I am sure the pressure will build up. And it works both ways.
Where is the news?
Both in India and Pakistan. And secondly, let me emphasize why the Indian ambassador and the Indian government did not seize upon this matter.
That's a good question.
The reason is this: they must have been inquiring into the matter also. Inquiries do take some time. That explains why the Indian government did not act in haste at all.
Back to General Jaswal, if he agrees with your argument or not, General.
Mr. Pirzada, I would say that what you're saying may be absolutely right. Now, there was an impasse in the relationship, almost an impasse in the relationship between Pakistan and India post the beheading of our brave soldiers. I think if in case the Pakistan government and judiciary had reacted fast enough to apportion blame on the people who prosecuted this kind of torture, it would have sent a very good message. Now, with this kind of a thing, definitely we do feel that confidence building would have taken place. But the mere fact that autopsy took almost, it did not happen, and the autopsy took 2 months. I think now these are the derailing incidents or elements, I'll call, which are not good for our dialogue. It's not good for our confidence building.
Precisely. Usually the question is this, gentlemen. An autopsy report is handed over, the least you can do, the least dignity you show. Indian prisoner dies in your jail, your terrible prison system with its badly trained superintendents of police with their barbaric instincts of beating up Indian prisoners, kill him. The least that one can do is that you hand over the autopsy report to the family along with the body of the deceased. In the case of Chamel Singh, Syed Tariq Pirzada and Brigadier Javed Hussain, please understand, the body is handed 2 months later. The autopsy report is not given. You can't say, why did your government not ask? Well, we are the media and we are now asking. Your government knows about it, your government is hiding something. Where is the transparency in your system, Brigadier Hussain, that you are asking for?
No, but I'm not suggesting that there is transparency or there is no transparency. What I'm trying to merely suggest is that the present government in Punjab, this interim government, with a journalist as chief minister, interim chief minister, Indian government should take up the case now. And I'm sure the Punjab Home Department will have to answer a lot for this tragedy. And the people who committed this tragedy will be identified and punished. And the media will take it up here. This is something which no Pakistani would condone. Right-thinking Pakistani, and the majority of the Pakistanis are right-thinking.
Well, I hope...
Take it up now.
Brigadier Hussain, you and I disagree on a lot, but I agree with you today. I just wish there are some right-thinking Pakistanis in your government who see sense in all of this. And you know, the government here is feeling the heat. They will have to ask the questions of the Pakistanis. Brigadier Jaswal wants to say something to you. But before that, may I get in Firoz Bakht Ahmad, who from a personal experience has a lack of trust with the way intelligence agencies do cover-ups in Pakistan. Firoz Bakht Ahmad, I'd like you to come in. He is, of course, a well-known columnist and social activist. He wants to say something to our Pakistani guest tonight. Go ahead, sir. What would you like to add on the story? What do you want the government to do?
Yes, Arnab, through this channel of Times Now, I would say a few things which in fact these important Pakistani officers should convey to their rulers, to the officers, and especially the ones who are running Pakistan. It is not the politicians, the MPs running the government, it is the ISI and some army officers. Now let me tell you how this tour of Lahore came up. In fact, the previous, June vacation.
No, I just want to establish one thing here before you come in, sir. One sec. I am sharing this experience today.
Please.
Just to put it in context, Firoz Bakht Ahmad, who is a teacher, columnist and social activist, in June 2012, went with a group of children to Lahore. And this is an amazing story, where Indian children between the ages of 3 and 16 were detained by intelligence officials in Pakistan on the suspicion of spying for India. So when you say he was a spy, I want you to understand the mindset that exists in Pakistan. And gentlemen, I want you to hear this story today, Brigadier Javed Hussain. You've been a Special Forces officer. It's actually quite ridiculous. Yes, please go ahead, Firoz Bakht Ahmad. Share your experience and why do you think it's relevant in the present context?
Thanks, Mr. Goswami. In fact, my kids never wanted to go to Lahore. They told me that we want to go to Manali. I told them no, let us go to Lahore. It's a city of fun and frolic and food. So anyway, when I pressurized, they got ready. I had got the visa because of the good wishes of a principal of an eminent institution in Lahore. So we landed in Lahore. And from there on, my travels and the travels of my 3 children and wife began. They followed, of course, they had to follow because this is their duty. They follow all the Indians. Perhaps they thought that I was an Indian spy, or since I have got, you see, my links to Maulana Azad, and Maulana Azad is not liked in Pakistan at all because he was not in favor of the formation of Pakistan or partition. So they were after me. And I'll just come to the crux of where, my problems actually got aggravated. One day the children asked to go to this Joyland Park, which is somewhere in the Kant area of Lahore. My kids said, yes, it's 4 or 5 days, let us go to the Joy Park. I said, okay. I took a, vehicle. There's a 3-wheeler in Lahore also. And we were going to this Joyland. And I never knew which is Kant area or which is Sibyl area, whatever it is. Same with my wife and with my kids. So while we were just entering that Joyland Park, there was a crossing. 2 people following us. I never knew that they are following us from the beginning. They stopped our vehicle and told that poor driver of the 3-wheeler to come to some server station, police station, Server Road police station. I mean, I was not afraid. I thought they would just ask me where from you have come. So we all landed into the police station. Then they started asking all sorts of questions. And I told them, we are tourists. We have come from India. And they were suspecting us. I said, I am not, spying for RAW. I am not spying for Indian government. I am just an Indian tourist. And we have just come to see Lahore. Lahore is a wonderful and beautiful city. And they did not believe any of these things. They said, well, on your passport, it is written that you should not enter the prohibited area. And the prohibited area, according to you people, the Pakistani officers in Lahore, is Kant. And my kids were just going to the Kant area. We were not going to plant some bomb or something dangerous or taking some pictures. So I was very sad. And in fact, I am still more sad because my kids have started hating Pakistan like hell. Now I tell them no.
He writes here when he writes
Arnab,
about this
I'm sad. You see, India. Arnab, let me complete, please. Arnab, India and Pakistan are just the sons of the same mother. Right? And I like the way these 2 officers exchange their greetings by saying, hello, how are you? But there has to be the meeting of hearts, which has not happened. The people in India and Pakistan are glorious. Yes. I know on the border of India and Pakistan at Atari borders, there are so many Sikhs, there are so many Punjabis, which come to the border and they had been, their ancestors had been living there, they themselves had been living there. They gaze at this Atari border and they want to go there. But because of ISI, because of so many they can't go there or not.
I take your point. Now, I have just been informed on the phone that the Indian High Commission, and why this story is important is so that the sense goes out to our guests in Islamabad tonight, that a lot of Indians want to see the relationship improve, but the relationship cannot improve, and the relationship will not improve. If you murder Indian soldiers in custody like this, if you detain 3-year-old and 10-year-old Indian children on charges of suspicion of spying, you return their bodies without internal organs, and you don't even tell us how they died. The Indian High Commission, Syed Tariq Pirzada and Javed Hussain, has been asking for the autopsy report from Pakistan since January.
Another thing I would like to share with you, Arnab, if you give me some time.
1 second. To our guest in Islamabad, since January we are asking how did Chamel Singh die. Since January you are dodging us. Why? Why Syed Tariq Pirzada? How can you rationalize that?
Can you repeat it?
Since January, our Pakistan High Commission, you ask, why do you not ask yourself how your man died? I am telling you tonight that the Indian government has been asking you since January. Since January, you have given no reply. You don't care.
Well, I gave you a very cogent reason that the government of Pakistan, be it the central government, which has nothing to do with it, or the provincial government, they're all going through a very tough democratic transition. The country is going through a period of terrorism. The country is going through a very tough time as far as the economic conditions are concerned. There is a... let me finish.
Why is... I
am not defending anybody.
Tell me why...
But in any country... But in any country where we have these kind of situations, we cannot expect speedy results.
Sir,
so I would say that the delay by the Indian government itself in properly pursuing this matter, if it has happened, that should be done in a very efficient manner. You yourself pointed out that the Indian government has been quiet for some time also.
So let me tell you.
So keep that matter in mind. Number two, as far as the beheading of the Indian soldiers is concerned, that is a very controversial and disputed matter, and passing a verdict that has happened is not going to get us anywhere.
Well,
similarly, if you remember the case of Dr. Abdul Rashid, you know what happened to him? He was kept in India for what? 16 to 18 years under no charge, basically. So I'm not saying, so these things happen on both sides. But in this case,
are you talking of the gentleman who was released from Rajasthan?
And it must be pursued in any case. If you're talking about the
gentleman from Rajasthan, he was held on murder charges and he was released as a great and grand gesture by the courts and the people of India.
Yeah, that was Dr.
So please don't misinterpret things. But I want KC Singh to come in on this. KC Singh, you know, Chamel Singh's body was not returned for 2 months. Our guests from Pakistan say we are a troubled country, give us time.
Arnab, this is very surprising because countries don't come to a standstill 2 months before this. There's a transition in any democracy. In the US, the transition is normally 3 months. The elections held in November. A new president doesn't take on till the end of January. Now, it doesn't mean everything comes to a standstill. This is a very unconvincing explanation. Now, as far as the Indian High Commission is concerned, I'm glad they took it up. But then why was it not repeated from Delhi? Why wasn't the High Commissioner called in? Why didn't you ratchet up the pressure?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, if you routinely took it up with the Foreign Office there, and then you sat back, I think the only explanation is, what I explained in the beginning, I think because of the beheading, the Hyderabad blast, both governments were trying to contain the damage, and they put Chamel Singh's case in the background. Now, this is very sad because I think what happens is each human tragedy can be a basis for greater trust or can be a ground for greater mistrust. And we mishandle it.
General Jaswal, and then I'm coming for the final word from Firoz Bakht Ahmad. Yes, I can hear you and I'm coming to you, sir. General Jaswal, please. You find the arguments from Pakistan convincing?
You see, no,
not at all convincing. Every time, you know, they kill our soldiers.
No, just a minute.
Yeah, continue,
please, kindly let me speak.
Yeah.
You see, if you extrapolate what Brigadier Javed was saying, that there are people who are stable over there, people who are rational-minded over there. Now, you have to extrapolate this kind of a statement. That means the diaspora in Pakistan is not keen for this kind of a thing. I mean, this needs to be, it requires further dilation. But the functionaries in the government and the army, they've got a different psyche. So if the trouble is, accruing between the two countries, well, we have to take on the diplomatic this thing, whereas the diaspora per se can be utilized on both sides to bring in better detente. This is an important thing because the people are not keen for this kind of a thing. But the government action in this case also.
Firoz Bakht Ahmed, you find the arguments from our guests in Pakistan convincing?
Not at all. You see, every time there is some tragedy and they are up with some flimsy, you know, reason to justify their own. I mean, I am really sad the way the Pakistani side has been, you know, reacting. In fact, let me tell you one thing. You see, unless and until
absolutely
they
wrong.
Us, unless and until
I have
they
not
behave
made any flimsy
the way
argument.
they should have done, I am very sad. You see, let me please complete. Let me complete, please. Let me tell you also this thing that
don't make a wrong statement.
Pakistan is now considered to be a terrorist state. Even Muslims like me in India, right? Whatever soft corner has been there or was there in Indian Muslims for Pakistan, it has now frittered away because the way ISI, the way your agencies have been treating all tourists from India. You go to USA, you go to Britain, you go to Singapore, Indonesia, there is no harassment of people from India the way you harass us. I think, you see, let us be friends.
Okay.
We are from the same roots.
Yeah.
Pakistanis want to come to India, we want to go to Lahore and Karachi, but the way your agencies are working, the way ISI has been after the lives of Indians.
And the Indian defense minister harassed in the United States. So I guess you are forgetting the history. Anybody who looks like us will be harassed. This is the white man's attitude.
Mr. Pirzada, the point is this. An Indian man lay at the morgue of Jinnah hospital, his body lied. He's been injured, there are marks all over his body. You have to give us the autopsy report.
Or there are hundreds of Pakistanis whose bodies have been found with marks and returned, and sometimes they have never been returned. If you go for the blame game, that will not get you anywhere. Let's talk about the reality that if there has been a tragedy, it must be investigated. That's the best I can say.
The autopsy report is ready. The autopsy report has been ready. The autopsy report is out in the Pakistani media. Are you willing to accept that Chamel Singh was beaten and tortured to death in a Pakistani jail? The onus is on you. The ball is in your court.
Unless I have, let me very frankly say, unless I have complete investigation published, I cannot form my judgment.
That's fantastic.
I mean, this is why I made a reference to Dr. Abdul Rashid's case. Because it was published both in India and in Pakistan. Here you are just guessing too much.
You don't allow the investigation to happen, and then you say, let there be an investigation. The story of Chamel Singh will certainly continue. We are going to follow this story up, whether or not anyone else picks it up.
These Pakistani officers will keep on saying things which are without reason.
Thank you very much for participating in debate number 2 on the Newshour Tonight.